Hey everyone, welcome back to Untitled Studios. My name is Ken, and we are back with Random Coding Challenge. So I'm really excited to bring you this one today. I've been working on this for a couple weeks now. This one is a math equation. It's a random math equation generator with a UI of Super Mario, and I made it for my son. And its whole intent is to have him practice math, but in a way that keeps him engaged. So that's what I built here. And if we take a look at it, before we get into the code, let's take a quick look at it. I'm going to do that by hitting Alt and B to open it up on the HTML page. Okay, so this is what the UI looks like. We have a little bar here, just a random top bar. We have the footer with the studio's name. And then we have this box and a bunch of buttons. I'm going to show you a little bit of how this works, and then we're going to look at the code. And then after that, I will mention a bunch of bugs that are actually still in here. Nothing that really breaks it, but things I didn't have time to fix, nor did I really need to, because this is really just for my son. But if you're going to use it commercially or otherwise, you may want to look into getting rid of these. So the first thing we're going to do is hit play. And you notice Super Mario Brothers starts playing. So you'll see these little boxes up here. They won't be there when you first run the program, because to keep my son engaged, what I wanted to do is all the new apps and games that they have out now have kind of pushed away from achievement style things, and instead have gone with pictures or something like it, where you unlock a picture. So that's what I went with, the same thing, because my son loves it. So basically, it's a very simple game. All you have to do is get the math equation right and pick that answer. So we have 9, 12, 13, 3. And Mario moves up. The idea is to get Mario to the flag. So I'm going to fast forward through this just so we can see what happens. Actually, I'm going to stop right here. Because I also want to show you what happens if the person gets it right or wrong. First, we're going to get it wrong. We hear a nice thwomp, and it says try again. So what I did was, if you hit play, not only will the music restart, but it'll also show the same equation that you just did. So now you can try again, and a coin goes off. We'll keep fast forwarding now. Okay, so at this point, we're about to go over, because Mario actually goes a little bit over the flag. So we're about to see what happens. So we go 17, new equation. This is going to be the last one. Okay, so it says you've unlocked a picture, and Mario goes all the way back here. But you don't see a new picture unlocked. So what you have to do is just hit play, I think it is. Is it play? Yeah. Hit play again, and a new picture will unlock. So what do these pictures do exactly? Well, that's what I couldn't figure out. At first, I thought maybe I'll just have pictures start lining up on the bottom, and then he'd be able to make them bigger when he hovers over them, and then maybe download them to change his desktop. But I figured it's not really like, he doesn't have his own laptop, so he'd be changing my wife's desktop. And I didn't think that was fun enough. I wanted it to be engaging for the website. So what I ended up doing was, when he clicks on them, it changes the background. So now, when he unlocks a new picture, he could change the background and then keep going and keep playing. So this is the website. This is all, and the key thing is actually, let me just show you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 backgrounds. If we exit and we open it again, once we hit play, 4 backgrounds are still here. So I wanted to put in some kind of save functionality, so it wasn't as though he unlocked some pictures, but then once he shut down the website and went back to it later on, they weren't there. He had to do it again. So we do have some kind of save functionality in here, and we'll get into that a little later. Okay, so now I'm going to try and dive through this. This can get a little confusing. I'm going to try and dive through this quickly, but effectively. So if I go too fast, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you're confused about. I'll try and help you out as best I can, okay? So I'm not going to talk about all the pieces of code, because some I feel like are self-explained, but I will point out any elements or things that I think are important. So the first thing I'm going to point out, this is where we're going to start with the HTML file. And the first thing I'm going to point out is the metadata viewpoint. I don't actually know if I explained this, but if I haven't, let me explain it now. Oh, OBS isn't viewing okay, it's not recording my mouse. It does that sometimes. Why? Okay, I just realized OBS isn't recording my mouse, so on the visual code, so I'll highlight when I'm talking about something. So, essentially what this does right here is it takes no matter what device you're on, it compartmentalizes a screen for that device. So if you're on a computer, it's going to make the screen bigger. It's going to make all the elements in this website bigger. If you're on a small device, it's going to shrink all the elements. Now, you'll see a little bit, that's one of the bugs that are in there. It works very well, but it's not perfect. It doesn't do everything for you. So to do this perfectly, you'd have to change some things around. but we'll get into that later. Let's see what else we have here. So we have our divs. These are all our divs right here. Well, we have a lot of divs. The first two divs are Mario and the flag. So if we open up the website and we hit play, Mario and the flag. Can I stop the music, please? No, I can't. No, I can't. All right, we'll just leave that running in the background for a minute. So Mario and the flag. Those are the two divs. That's these two divs. And you'll notice that there's no picture called. That's because I handled that in CSS. I figured it was a lot neater there, and I could mess with it a lot more in CSS. So I just called those two pictures. I just called Mario and the flag here as a div, and then in CSS is when I call the actual URL for the picture. Then we have the banner, which would be this thing right here. The only real reason I put this in here is because I wanted somewhere for the unlocked pictures to go. And originally I was going to put it under here, but I felt up here was nicer. Right now this web application only has 10 pictures. You can update it as needed. It's super simple to update. But right now it only has 10 pictures. Also, I should stop right here and say this. These pictures, these songs, all of the art and the background, all of the art and music is not mine. It's not my property. I got it off the internet. I'm not using this commercially. This was solely a project that I was built for my son. He's going to use it by himself and no one else. So when I upload this to GitHub, just know that when you try and recreate this website, you're going to have to get your own images and music. It's super simple. Literally just went on to Google and search Super Mario images. And then for the music, I actually just put on Super Mario Maker 2, I believe. I think I put on Super Mario Maker 2 or Super Mario World on Switch. And then just recorded the sound off OBS and got rid of the video. And get some more coffee. Get some more coffee. This is going to be a longer video, I just realized, because I didn't expect to go into this much detail on HTML. And we have all of CSS and JavaScript. All right. So the next divs we have are the pictures. So these are the actual pictures that you can unlock. You can see this 10 here. And you can see that this is one of the parts. And I'm gonna explain things that I don't like that turned out here. The problem is, with such a confined timeline, I can only do so much. You'll see that each picture calls a different function. Fuse 1, Fuse 2, Fuse 3, all the way to Fuse 10. I don't like that. I gotta remember that you can't see my mouse. I gotta pay attention. So I wanted to get all these divs into one function instead of having each one a separate function. So Fuse 1, Fuse 2, Fuse 3. I wanted them all to be in one function. The very last second I said, you know what, let me just throw them each into a function, in a separate function, and see what happens. So that's what I did. So if you notice each picture, I labeled it unlock 1 and so 1, 2, 3 and so forth. And then I spelled picture wrong apparently. Oh Jesus. And then on click and then do a function. So these are all the unlockable pictures. And now also notice that I nested them inside the banner div. Because I wanted them let's look at this. I wanted them to stay within this banner div. I did not want them to move around outside of the banner. I did, because that would have looked completely messy. So that's why I nested them inside the banner div. Because you'll see the opening div is here and the closing div is here for the banner. Then we have math box and math text. That would be this box right here. The math box is the red box out here. The math text is the text inside. The button bar, I originally, and this is funny, so this is the button bar. You can see it's slightly, can you see? Yeah. You can see it's slightly different color. This is the button bar. I originally had all of the buttons, which are right here, nested inside the button bar. It didn't really work great. And I can't remember why. I don't know if it was the font was too small, which it could have been, which I ended up fixing anyway. But for the time, it wasn't working, so I left them outside, which they work fine anyway. And then we have the footer bar and the footer text, which is over here. I went with different divs for each, because you could just put the label, the company label, within the footer bar. Yeah, let me just show you. Why am I going crazy? Let me just show you. So, where's the footer bar? So here's the footer bar. This is a div. This is a opening div, closing div, and then I put another div in here. I could have just put here, footer bar. I'm not going to type the whole thing out. And it would have came up. But when you resize the website, it kind of looked, it would pop out of the footer bar. So that's why I made them separately, and I nested the footer text within the footer bar so it didn't pop out. So that is all of HTML. Again, I know I'm going probably too fast for everyone. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Let's move on to CSS. Okay, so now CSS is not too much to talk about. It's essentially, it's CSS, you know, resizing images, putting them where you want them, top, left, width, height, all that. This is how you call an image on CSS. So it's background and then URL and then the URL. I put everything, hold on one second actually. Okay, so this is the folder where I have everything, and this drives me crazy. Again, if this was a project that long-term that I was going to continuously work on, this would not do, no, I would go bananas every time I open this folder. But for now, this is what I did. So essentially, if you want it to work like I have it in the code, all the pictures, all the files have to be in the same exact folder. That's how this works. Because I didn't, so you see Mario1.png, in order to get that into separate folders, like put all your pictures together, you'd have to give the exact file location. So it would be like // well, actually mine's L, I believe. Is mine L? Am I on L? Where am I? Yeah, Terraform Studios 2, L, HTML, JavaScript, but it goes even bigger than that. This is just the small hand one. So if you want to put it, you can put it in separate files. That's absolutely possible. So the reason I have everything here, and to me, it's a jumbled mess. I like organization. I like files and files and files. But the reason I did it this way is because I'm working on the program through my computer. Now, we'll get into this later on, but I use something called local storage, which is basically how you can save things onto the person's local computer, and you don't have to worry about cookies or anything like that from the web browser. Now, because of that, I'm not going to know exactly where this is going to save on their local storage, because I believe, if I remember correctly from the documentation, it saves within the browser's file system. File structure. So I don't know exactly where it saves. So I couldn't put all these into files because I wouldn't have the extension over here. I wouldn't know the extension perfectly from their computer. So I left it all here. It drives me crazy. If I have more time, I'd figure out a better solution. But just to let you know, to get this to work, all of your pictures, audio, code have to be in the same file. Not a folder within a folder, because then it won't work. It has to be in the same folder. Getting back to the code. Basically, the CSS is nothing really to write home about. We all know CSS. It's the width and the height and the top and the left. Actually, I should mention this, though. So you notice, if we refresh this, you notice Mario, the flag, and the pictures are not here. And neither are the numbers. That's because I use this, display none. So when you put display none on any image, it doesn't display. Simple enough. And basically, again, we'll get into this later with JavaScript, but basically all I did was I put the pictures I didn't want to show up yet, I would display none, and then in JavaScript, I would grab this element, and then I would change the display to block. And basically what that's doing is displaying none when the website opens, but when you do something, it changes its display element to something else, so the pictures show up. It's a super easy way to hide images and then make them pop out later on. And that's actually the whole structure for unlocking the pictures. They're there the whole time. They're on the website the whole time. You just can't see them because I'm not displaying them. Let's see. Let's comb through this real quick and just see if there's anything else I want to talk about. Because again, CSS is CSS. You know, each picture has a display of none, so they're not shown right away. But everything else, width, height, top, left, background. What did I just do? Whoops. Let's save this. Stop it. Stop messing around. Not that it's very, but I should talk about it because I had to do it. Where is it? Math box. Yes, okay. So, I guess we'll talk about the box radius because I've never mentioned this in a video before. Basically, if you notice, we have square corners here, but rounded corners here. We actually don't have square corners here. This is actually because, and you can have you can do this natively. I did it by accident, and it looked good, so I left it. But the only reason we have square corners here is because the button bar is here. If I remove the button bar, there are actually rounded corners on the bottom. But to get rounded corners in general, you just got to change the border radius. So, and the bigger the radius is, the more of the curve, I believe it was. So I went with a border radius of 25 pixels, and that gave it a nice curve. Let's see. We should also talk about this one. Okay, so this was very important. So remember this viewpoint here? Remember this viewpoint that we called? I was running into an issue where when I resized the window, the words would leave the boxes. Now, they still do a little bit, depending on how you resize it, but I fixed it for the most part. And the way I did that was instead of giving them a pixel or a percentage size, I gave them a VW. And that basically means it goes off the viewpoint. So whatever the view window, whatever the viewpoint is on the window, how you minimize it and maximize it depending on your device, that's how big the font will be. And that makes it so the font is exactly how you want it within the window size. I also made a font weight of 1000 just to make it stand out in bold. That's actually something I learned during this project. I didn't know about VWs. I was trying to do some research, reading through the documentation, and I found out about VW. So now you can use pixels, which is PX, percentage, which is a percentage sign, or VW for a viewpoint. But again, the only way to use VW is to have this meta name and content. All right, so we have the button play, center 1000, nothing fancy there. These are the buttons. So I think that's going to do it for CSS. Like I said, there wasn't too much crazy things going on in CSS. It's just making everything look pretty. That's what CSS does, and it does it well. Now we get into the bread and butter of this website, of any website really, is the JavaScript. And I want to start off by saying I apologize. It's a little it's a little for me because I like things done in a certain way. But again, time restraints didn't allow me to do this how I wanted to. And I'm going to point out what I don't like about this right off the bat, so people smarter than I can fix it. Okay, so the first thing we have, you'll see these three. You'll see these five, actually, I should say. So we have random number 1, 2, RG1, 2, and 3. I apologize right off the bat for variable names. I was not creative. These two are the first random numbers. And essentially what these two are, these are, boom, these two numbers. So we needed to generate two random numbers. So they will always be different. So all I did was made two variables, made them random numbers between 1 and 11. Okay, so that's what these two are. This is one number, this is the other. These three numbers, we needed more numbers, right? Because we needed the guesses down here. So I made three more numbers. Now I made these 1 through 21. When you're adding two numbers, it can go higher than 10. So now my son's really only working on, well actually now I think he's up to double digits. But they're really working mostly on single digits, so I catered this to single digits. But you add two single digits together, you get double digits. So I needed the answers to coincide with that. What are these variables? I don't know what these variables are, so we'll skip those. Oh, I do, but we'll come back to those variables. These three variables are the audio. So we have the right answer. I have to remember that you can't see my thing. We have the right answer, which is the coin sound. We have the wrong answer, which is the thwomp sound. And we have the Super Mario music. We have a symbol, which I'll get into a little later, because that coincides with either both or one of these. Then we have the answer. So you saw we have 5 variables here. This is our 6th. The answer is our 6th. Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. So while we have the 2 random numbers for the equation, and then the 3 random guesses, we need the actual answer for this equation. And that is where this comes in. So whatever random numbers these two generate, at some point in the code, we're going to add or subtract them and then put them in this variable. And then we have these four, G1 through G4. I'll explain those a little later when I need to. All right, so I kind of programmed this, I'm pretty sure backwards, right? So I'm going to explain it this way because I think it's more cohesive that way, but I actually programmed it starting from like here, and I went backwards. But let's do it this way because I think it's more cohesive this way. All right, so the first thing I did was onload local check function. So I created a local, I wanted something to happen as soon as I opened up the web browser. Was a check to see if the person had a local storage. And this probably took me the longest because, and I'll explain the problem I was going with. But first, let's look at the code. So the function I went with is function local check. And if score in local storage do nothing, else local storage.setItem score equals 0. So first, let's explain a little bit of local storage. So local storage is a way that you can save information on the person's device. And it will keep that information there, so when they open the web browser 2 days from now, 2 months from now, a year from now, that local storage will still be there. So I wanted to use local storage instead of something like session storage or using the cookies, because once the person erases those cookies or uses a different I think this is cross web browser. I'm not sure for that. No, it is. It is cross web browser. So once they use a different web browser or erase their cookies, that safe information will go away. With local storage, it does not go away unless you program it to go away. So that's why I wanted to use local storage. I should point out that if you're planning on using any of this code for commercial use, I would find a different save method. Again, I'm using local storage because it's for my son. I know where it's going. But I read a couple articles stating local storage is easy to work around for hackers because it's basically putting code onto your computer that they're constantly getting back and forth. So just for that, if you're going to use local storage commercially, just look into it a little more because from what I've seen, it's not the best security-wise. Getting aside from all that, we have local storage. So the problem I was running into was before I had this function, what I was doing was I was going up here and I was calling local storage set item score 0. And it worked great. Let me explain. So it worked great. Further down in the JavaScript, we'll see the actual function that calls for local storage. But basically what was happening was, the problem what was happening was I called local storage and I made it 0. And as the user went through the website and got married to the flag, things were unlocking. It was perfect. Problem was once you refresh the website, because I was calling up here local storage, set item score equals 0, every time I refreshed it, the website would refresh score. So you would go from, you could have a score of 7, but it would erase it down to 0, meaning all your pictures would go away. That's not what I wanted. So it took me a really long time. I would say I've been working on this for probably about a month, but that's like, I would say probably like 3 hours a week because I didn't get much time to work on it. So figure altogether what, 369, 12 hours? I would say, I don't even know if I worked on it for 12 hours, honestly. I'd probably say I worked on this for, no, yeah, I guess 12 hours is about right. I would probably say 3 of those hours were just spent on local storage. I had a lot of trouble with local storage, and I was so excited. I was dancing when I figured it out. So essentially, instead of having it call local storage set item score 0 right at the front, where every time it refreshes, it's going to refresh score back to 0, I'm asking the system, is there in local storage on the computer, is there a key called score? If there is, do absolutely nothing. If there's not a key called score, put one there and make it 0. So now when they refresh the website, there is now a key called local storage because it doesn't go away unless you tell it to. So that's how this works. We're going to go a little more into detail with local storage again later on because we use it again to get for another function. But for now, what I want to say is to call local storage, this is to set an item, basically to create an element or a key. You could also get an element by doing local storage.getItem. I'm not highlighting. Sorry, everyone. Local storage.getItem. There's, why do I do things? There's a couple of different ways. You can find it in the Mozilla. I believe it's Mozilla documentation or W3. I believe they have the documentation as well. Okay, so quickly, and again, this is not in the right order because I did things completely different, but the way I structured it, I felt looked nicer. So what I realized was I needed a way to randomize the addition and subtraction operators because you don't want to do just addition, you don't want to do just subtraction, but you also don't want to sit there and have to manually put it in. So what I came up with doing is making the b variable, which we saw up here. So you see, this is between 1 and 2. This is a random number between 1 and 2. And then with this function, random symbol, right here, random symbol, if b equals 0, symbol's addition. Oh no, I'm sorry, it must be 0 and 1. So this function is the b variable is 2 numbers between 0 and 1. And this function, random symbol, is where it's called. So if b equals 0, symbol is addition. Answer equals random number plus random number. So I did that because this was the easiest way, I thought, to get this done. So we have the answer and we have the 2 random numbers. The problem is, if we're changing the operator on the fly, you can't just say, okay, this is a random number and then call these later because the whole thing will get messed up. So I actually called the actual equation is being answered in random symbol. So if it's not addition, if it's not 0, symbol equals minus. So there's only 0 and 1. So if it's not 0, it's 1, which means it's minus. Whoopsie. And if it is minus, and this is where it got a little tricky, my wife pointed out that my son is not up to negative numbers. So I can't just leave the operators. When it comes to minus, addition's fine. But when it comes to minus, if the number on the left is smaller than the number on the right, we're going into negative numbers. So what I came up with doing was I put an if statement in here that said if random number 1 is less than random number 2, the answer will be random number 2 minus random number 1. Else, the opposite way. So basically, if the number on the right is bigger than the number on the left, switch them. That's all it does. Because we want to make sure there are no negative numbers. So with this here, whenever it goes into a subtraction, the bigger number will always be on the left. And this way we never get a negative number. See, and this is why I really enjoyed this project. Not only is it something that my son can use, this is really my first official developed software that I've ever made. And I know it's not something that's woo, confetti, but it really showed me the process of building something. Like you come up with an idea and you implement the idea and then you realize, wow, that will not work because so many things aren't working with it. So you have to go in there and you have to fix it and you have to and it really showed me the process of software development. So even if you don't have kids and you're not going to use this at all, I still recommend trying it or trying something on your own. Try building something from start to finish and making it work perfectly. This helped for me because there was a point to it. It wasn't just like I was building something and then it was just going to sit in a folder. This is something my son could use, so there was a light at the end of the tunnel. Try and find your light at the end of the tunnel when you're doing these. It really helps fine-tune everything you develop when you have a purpose. Now off of my soapbox, let's see, this is random symbol. We did that? Yes, we did. Okay, so what random place does is it takes the variable a, which we saw up here, variable a. With variable a is a number between 0 and 3, a random number between 0 and 3. And basically what this whole function does is it randomly places the random numbers in different spots. Basically what this function is doing is it's changing all of the numbers. Because if you only change the random numbers and not the answer, let's say this is the answer and these are the 3 random numbers. Every equation you do, these 3 are going to change. But the answer will stay, the answer will always be here. So once you're going through it more and more and you keep clicking right, you're going to go, oh wait, it's just this button, and just keep clicking that button. So that's why we have to change the positions around. That's what this does. So if, again, we're calling a random number between 1 and 3 with this function right here, with this variable right here. And then if a equals 0, put the answer in spot 1. If a equals 1, put the answer in spot 2, spot 3, spot 4. That's what random place does. See how all these little parts fit into this one program to do all the jobs? It was so fun. I'm sorry. Okay. So this ties into the random number here. All right. So this function is called no negative. So basically all we're doing here is if random number 1 is less than random 2, put random 2 on the left side and then random 1 on the right. So we're doing the same thing, only we're actually putting it in the math text. So if we take this away and we go to the application, nothing will show up. Because this, while it's doing minus and it's doing the answer, it's not showing it anywhere. It's just doing the equation in the background. This is actually showing it. So I feel like there was a better way I could have done this where instead of calling it here and here, but that's what we left with. So there are some things you got to sacrifice, and that was one of them. So this was actually another thing my wife pointed out, doubles. So when I first programmed this website, there were a lot of versions. I think this is like version 1.3 or something. I was getting a lot of doubles, which is not a killer on the application, honestly, if you get doubles. It was more of a tedious thing. Like I didn't like looking at so many doubles. And my wife pointed out to me, so once she did, it was like the glass shot. I was like, oh, there's so many doubles. So what I did was I put into this function no doubles. So this is how I solve the no doubles. So while any of these equal themselves. So basically, while the answer equaled the first number, or answer equal the second number, answer equal the third number, or vice versa, or the first number equaled, you get the point. While any 2 numbers were the same, re-randomize them. That's all I did. So, and I did a while instead of an if, instead of a for, because this will continuously go. So let's just say answer and the first guess are both 2. And then I used an if statement and for loop, and then it randomized the first one. But it randomized it to a 2. That's it. It would stop, and we'd still get a double. I used a while because this is saying, while there's still a double, keep randomizing it until it's a different number. So that's all this equation does, but it really makes the, it gives the web application more finesse because you don't see doubles, which was a huge, huge benefit. Now we get down to, we're actually going a lot faster than I thought. This is probably going to be a 2-hour video. Sorry. Maybe I'll break it up. I'm not sure. So now this is our next function unhide. Now you saw on the website, everything's hidden, and then you hit play, and everything hides up, right? Let's refresh that so we don't listen to music. And this is basically how I did it. So right away, when you, in the function unhide, I call document.getElementById Mario. And what that is going to do is called this. So this is bringing the Mario div to my JavaScript. If you want to change a CSS property of an element, all you have to do is style, and then whatever you want to change. So I wanted to change the display. I was talking about this earlier. So while in CSS Mario, display is none, which means you don't display the image, I called, whenever function unhide is called, display block, which meant display the image. So I did that with Mario and the flag. This is where local storage came into play. I made a variable called ls, local storage, and that equals local storage.getItemScore. So remember I mentioned that getItem is another feature of local storage. That allows the web browser to get the key, to get the key in the person's device's local storage that you labeled score. So right now, in the unhide function, it's going to grab the local storage. If local storage equals 1, we're going to unhide or display in block mode the unlocked picture 1. So now if we go back to our unlocked pictures, again, I did all these display none. So then we put a bunch of if statements saying, well, if the score equals 1, then unlock the first picture. If the score equals 2, unlock both the first and the second picture, and so on and so forth. So that's exactly how we hid the pictures until they're ready. And now if you look here, so there are 10 pictures here. You can't click on them, but they're here. But because they're not displayed, you can't click on them. That's why it works so well. So that's what unhide does. It basically just unhides everything. Where were we? Okay, so now we're up to move, and this I was very unhappy with. Okay, so I mean, I eventually became happy with it, but there are so many better ways to do it if I had more time. So you get an equation, you answer right, Mario moves forward. That's all I wanted to do. JavaScript has a function called or CSS actually, I think it's in CSS, has a function called animation. And basically what it means is you put an animation little thing here, and then you set up a function type thing underneath it, media, I think it is. And you can say, well, if this happens, play the animation, which was great. It made Mario smoothly move to the right. Problem is, I couldn't figure it out because every time I reran the animation, either Mario would start from his original starting point. So he would move forward, and then he'd fly backwards. Or he would move forward, but then he'd stay there even though the question got hit correct. So I had to nix that, so I went with this. So what we're doing here is we're creating a variable called val, and we're parsing Mario's style left, which is, where's Mario? Here it is, left. Here's a percentage of 25%. So we're parsing his style left 25%. And we're adding 2 to that. And then we're calling it. So we're adding 2 to his left style, and then we're calling it. And that allows Mario to move to the left, to the right. And then, oh, we're not done yet, people. We're not done yet. What is this? So this is how I called to make Mario move backwards. So when he gets to the flagpole, not only do we want a picture to unlock, but we want him to go back to start. So here I called in both the flag and Mario's starting position, and I parsed it as integers. Then I called if the flag position is greater than or is less than or equal to Mario's position, you're gonna call Mario. We're gonna call Mario again using val as a variable minus 50, and then minus 50, and then actually do it. So basically, what that means is when Mario hits the flagpole, I mean, we saw he goes a little over the flagpole. I could fine tune it, but I didn't have time. When he hits the flagpole, he's going to go back 50% of the website or to his starting location. So that's what that does. And then after Mario goes back, we're going to do pick unlock. So now let's find out what pick unlock does. Ooh. All right, so this is the bread and butter of local storage. Yes. Function pick unlock. If type of storage is not undefined. This is why I had so much trouble with the whole refreshing and the pictures going away with the local storage. I thought when I first went into this that putting this here, type of storage, not undefined, would do the job for me, but it didn't. Well, I thought this meant if there is local storage, do this. But then I realized something. If this meant if there is local storage, do this, then I'm saying if there is no local storage, I'm not creating it. And that's when I realized that's not what this does. What this does is say if your web browser allows local storage, do this. If it doesn't, display this message. So when I was reading through the documentation, I didn't understand it correctly. I reread it a couple times, and that's when I realized that was my biggest problem when I was doing local storage, is I didn't understand it. Now I understand that this isn't saying if you have local storage or not. This is saying if your web browser supports local storage, activate the local storage. If not, put a message saying your web browser doesn't support local storage. But what this is doing is it's saying if your web browser supports local storage, parse an int into local storage, get item score. So basically what that's saying is you're going to get the local score item and make it an int. No matter what's in there, make it an int. Then you're going to do local storage, set item, score, plus score. So what we're doing here is we're calling local storage and we're getting the key score. And then no matter what's in there, we're going to change that to an integer. So once we change it to an integer, we're going to go down to this line here. And we're just going to add 1 to that integer. So if it's a 3, we're going to add 1, which makes it 4. And then we want to... Oh, I spelled that wrong too, didn't I? Is that wrong? Is that wrong? I'm pretty sure that's wrong. And then we're going to display the message, you unlocked picture. And if the web browser does not support local storage, I put, sorry, your browser does not support local storage. Progress will not be saved. Nice and simple. Okay, now we make it... Oh my God, we're only only halfway through of JavaScript. Now we're going to the function start. So this is basically when you click the play button, this is what happens. If we can go back to the play button. Where's the play button? Button play start. That's all it is. So it's when you click play button, what happens? And this is basically where I just nested all the functions I created. To me, this looks a lot neater than putting all the code in start. I like putting all the little bits of code in function and then putting all the function names in start. I find it easier. So like when you're debugging, I can go to start and go, okay, where is the problem being had? If I'm getting negative numbers, I know to go to no negative, and then I know to go find the function no negative and look through that code. It just makes it a little easier for me. All right, so skipping by that, now we have the checks. So the checks, what do we have? 4 checks. So we have a check for each button. Where is it? Yeah. So these are the buttons. Button guesses 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's these buttons right here. So what these do, check 1. If button 1 equals the answer, so if the integer in the button 1 location is the same as the answer to our equation, grab the math text, which is, let's just show you, which is this, grab this, and instead of putting the number, change that to correct. Then you're going to play the right sound, which is the sound, the coin, ding, and then move. We don't know what the move function, what is the move function? Oh, makes Mario move, that's right. And then move Mario. If it's wrong, display try again and play the thwomp sound. So we have check 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 for each button. That's all these do. Moving down. Oh no, we're getting there, we're almost done. Okay, last but not least, there are 2 more things I'm unhappy with in this structure, this file structure. This is one of the big ones, and I think I may have mentioned this already. I have so many functions for just like one thing. So this is fuse. This is what each unlock picture calls. Okay, why did I name it fuse? I don't know why I named it fuse, honestly. That's a weird function name. I don't know. Basically what this does is it changes CSS properties. Okay, so let's look at this first. What happens? That's why I called this fuse. Okay, it's still not a great variable name, but okay, I get it now. All right, so these are the fuse functions. So this is what happens after you change your background. So again, let's go back here. So when you unlock a picture, it gets displayed in the corner, right? We know that. We hit play, and we already have some unlocks, so they're displayed here. What these, nope, go back to fuse. What these functions do is when you click on the, I'm using my hands a lot because my mouse cursor doesn't work. When you click on the picture that gets unlocked, what happens? And that's what this does. So when you click on a picture, let's just say you click on picture 1, it'll run function fuse 1. which for this function is document.body style background. So that's going to grab the body background, the main background of the website. And it's going to change the image to URL unlock1.jpg, right? Then we're going to change the background size to cover. So if you don't change the background size to cover, and you have varying different size backgrounds, it's going to, like, a lot of these pictures are very small. And it's hit or miss because when they get bigger, they get kind of degraded. But you can fix that by finding proper backgrounds. But to just do this, you know, something quick that I can have my son look at, I just use the cover, and what that does is stretches the image to cover the whole background. So that's what cover does. So we change the background size to cover, and then document element by ID, we got the math box. I wanted to make that the opacity. I want to change the opacity. So now when you go to CSS, you can go to any image and just do opacity, and then change it to, I think it's 0.5, 1, 0.2. I think anything between 0.0 and 1, you can change the opacity. And what that's doing is basically just making this see-through. So when we do this, if we change the background, it goes to white, I know. You can see now this is see-through. So you can see the image behind it. Because I didn't want to change the image, and then if this wasn't see-through, you'd be missing like a lot of the main images. So that's why I changed it to opacity. So why don't I like this? I don't like this because for every new picture we add, we have to add a new function. And I don't like this because there's already 10 functions. I feel like that's unneeded. I tried for a while. I put a bunch of if statements in there saying if it's this button that's clicked, do this. I couldn't get it working properly. I got it somewhat working, but not enough where I felt confident enough to upload it to GitHub because other people may use this and I don't want them to have a hard time. So at the end, I just left it with separate functions. If I ever come back to this, it may be something I put in some time to change, but for now, this is what it has to be. So essentially each picture, but if you wanted to add more pictures, let me just briefly show you how to add more pictures just in case you wanted to. All you would have to do is copy one of these. So we'll do Control-C, go down, edit. And now you would want to change unlock 10 to 11 and fuse 10 to 11, obviously. I'm going to get rid of this because we don't need this, though. But so you would do that, right? Then you'd go to math.css, go to where we have all the unlocked pictures here. Go under the last unlocked picture, copy and paste this. And here, all you want to change is the unlock image. And remember, your images have to be labeled the same. Do I still have that up? Yeah. Unlock 2, unlock 1. They have to be labeled the same as what they're here. Remember that. And then the only thing else you want to change is the left. So you want to put, I think I'm doing it 5. Yeah, I'm doing it 5% more from the left. So it's going right 5% more. And this way they're coincided with each other. And then all you have to do is make a new fuse function. And copy and paste. And change the unlock. That's all you have to do to add a new picture. Put the picture in the file and you're done. And that's it. You can add more pictures. Like I said, I only have 10. I'll probably add more because if he does it once a day, I mean, that's 10 days. Why did I think so hard for that? I didn't. I knew the answer. My brain just stopped working. It was like, that's how my brain works sometimes. I apologize. So that's like, what? It did it again. It's 10. I know the answer is 10. So that's only 10 days. So I haven't decided because if I keep adding images, it's going to scroll this way. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But yeah, you can. That's how you add extra images to this application. Okay, and we finally come to the end. This is the last thing that I did not like at all. I needed a button for when you clicked on new equation, it would bring up a new equation. And I tried it many different ways. What I realized was, no matter how I tried, let's go all the way back up, these variables, all the random variables. So if you don't know how random variable works in programming, it will randomize any number. But if you try and recall it later down in the code, it's still randomizing that same number. So if it randomizes a 2 right here, so say this variable randomizes a 2, and you call it again down here, it's going to randomize the same 2. So what I had to do was call a function and relist all the variables. These are not global. These are strictly for the function. And I had to relist all the variables to have it run a random number each time. I know there's a better way to do this. Having all these variables as global and then going all the way down and redoing them in the function irks my soul. Maybe I shouldn't have had them global in the first place. Maybe I should have put them in a function. I don't know. But this bothers me. It does. It bothers me a lot. But sometimes we have to just let things that bother us go. Just, whoo, so that's what I did. So basically all I did was I retyped up the variables in this new equation function, so it would give it a new random number. So instead of it always being a 2, because that's what was happening when I first redid this, and I think I don't remember where I put the random numbers, but I replaced them somewhere. I think I put them in start or something. I don't remember. But every time you ran it, it would come up with a 2 or the same number over and over again. So if all the numbers are the same, there's no point to this application. So I ended up retyping all the functions in here in the new equation, add in some of the functions we used to make sure everything worked right, and now it works. Now that we got through all of the code, and if you're still here, give yourself a pat on the back. Because honestly, listening to me jabber on about code for probably an hour, an hour, 1 minute and 56 seconds, is a huge deal, and you should properly congratulate yourself. Now let's look at the things I don't like about the website. So first thing I don't like is how you saw. Sometimes we get a white background. Sometimes these don't load right away. I know that's because I'm putting too much pressure on the web application. There are ways I can go about changing that. But again, time limits everything. That is the first thing I didn't like about the website. The second thing, and the worst part about this website, the thing that irks my soul to my very core, is this. Do you see it? Do you see it yet? Because you probably do. Everything. Look how small Terra for Studios is. Look how tiny it is. Everything resizes pretty good, except for, I mean, the images don't really. Their thumbnails don't really. But they still resize. See? The boxes still resize. What doesn't is Mario and the flagpole. And I know how to fix this. I have to put in JavaScript a function that basically shrinks Mario and the flag's image as the width gets smaller and the height gets smaller. But I didn't have time. So, depending on the size of your window, Mario, see, the width actually works. So, it kind of works. It kind of works. It still gets straightened off. This is the one thing that irked me to my soul, but I had to. I was worried that getting this fixed would take too long. I really need to get onto another project. I want to do a bunch of different projects put on GitHub. I want to really hone my skills, and I can't do that spending too much time on one project. So that is unfortunately the only thing I had to leave. Width isn't necessarily terrible, but the height, come on, the height, look, Mario's in there, and the flag disappears. Oh, that's gross. That's so gross. That is the worst. That is the worst bug in this website that I would really love to get fixed. Aside from that, though, look at the numbers. Look at how everything works so well except for that. All right, so that is Mario Math. Again, this code will be up in the GitHub. I'll put a link to the GitHub in the description below. This is using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of my code. Let me know in the comments, please. This is extremely important. I want to do a lot more videos of this. Let me know in the comments. Honestly, let me know what you liked and what you didn't like. I need to know so I know how to represent this better. Because I feel like this is a better way to explain my code rather than recording while I'm coding. Because I find it easier to concentrate on one task rather than explain my code. Because honestly, sometimes I'll put something in, I'll read through documentation, put it in, and it'll work great, but I'll have no idea how. What was that? Let's see, hold on. Real quick, let's go down to local storage again. I had no idea how this worked for the longest time. I actually put a thing here. So what I do when I code, a little tip, in case you're wondering, when I come across a piece of code that works but I don't know how, or a piece of code that doesn't work and I need to fix it, what I'll do is I'll put a little thing here that says fix or whatever, and then I'll put exclamation points all the way to the end of the screen. I'm not going to do it, but all the way to the end of the screen. And I do that because when I'm scrolling through code, when I reopen another day, when I'm scrolling through code, I know exactly what I need to work on because it's the only long code here. So I'll scroll down and see, oh, there's a long code here. I got to fix this. So what I did for local storage is for the longest time I had, why is this working with exclamation points? Because I had no idea why this was working. I don't know why I was saying that, though. Oh, so a lot of times I'll put code in here that I don't understand it until later on. So I feel like this is a better way to present the code. And this way, my main goal is to have people, well, one, my main goal is to get more people into programming. I know it's probably like a big thing now, but there are still people who look at code and go, that's gross. I have no idea how to make sense of it. I'm going to ignore it. And it's one of those things where it's just like, it looks confusing and it looks scary, but the second you get into it, it's like, wow, this is actually a lot simpler than I thought. And don't get me wrong, code can get really confusing and you could spend hours, days trying to figure out what someone else did. But I feel like that's kind of more of the fun. It's like deciphering something, you know? So my main goal is to get more people into coding. So I want to try and make the best coherent video possible. So I think this is the best way to do it, but if you think there's a better way to do it, let me know and I'll try that out and see what everyone else likes. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said before, whether you liked it or not, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you'd rather see. Do you want to see me do it a certain structure? Would you rather me try and code while it's recording and see how that goes? Let me know what's easier to learn from. Not that I think that I can teach anybody, but you know, my philosophy for my coding philosophy is basically learn from my mistakes. So you're going to watch me go through a lot of mistakes. I'm going to explain all the mistakes that I remember so you can learn from them. Oh, perfect example, local storage. I wouldn't use local storage on a commercialized website, but I used it perfectly for here because it's what I wanted to do. It's not what I started with. I wanted to save it from a text document, but I didn't have the time to go through the documentation to grab things from a text document, so I used local storage. But if you grab this code from GitHub, you could change it to a text document. You can change it to anything you want. So, you know, let me know what you want to see. Let me know if this structure was good. And if you do use this code, let me know. I want to see what you did. I want to see how you change it. I want to see, because that's the best part about this is I know people, if they actually grab it and they utilize it, they're going to make things a billion times better than what I made here today. They're going to put time and effort into it, and it's going to look amazing. So let me know. It's going to be up in GitHub. Like I said, I'm going to put a description for the GitHub down below I'm going to put a link to the GitHub in the description below. There you go. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, stay pixel perfect.